They're a tragedy. Yes, that's what I said. I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green. What's a tragedy? AirPods. AirPods. You know those little... Steve, can you show?
Yeah.
Thank you. Right there. Those are AirPods. It's the little Apple devices that are Bluetooth headphones, basically, and with a microphone in them. There's an article in Vice.com, May 6th, if you want to look it up, under the headline, AirPods Are a Tragedy. And this goes on for what I am guesstimating is in the neighborhood of 8,000 to 10,000 words, describing why these AirPods are such a tragedy. And, there is too much, so I must sum up. Basically, the writer Caroline Haskins, Caroline Haskins, says that the reason why AirPods are a tragedy is that they are made of toxins, that they never decompose, that they can't be, she says it takes a millennia, that they can't be repaired.
So never.
That they are a sign of conspicuous consumption, and that it is almost an affectation or a sign of your status when you lose your AirPods and you don't care. You can just throw them away and it doesn't make a difference, and you're just going to buy another $160 pair. So they're this affectation of the rich. And she uses the phrase, Stephen Green, they are the future fossils of capitalism. Steve, do you think this article is really about AirPods or something else?
It's really about the evils of capitalism. Yes, we're going to poison the planet while conveniencing you to death. Scary stuff. Let me tell you a little something about capitalism. Before capitalism created what we call, what Jonah Goldberg calls the miracle in his new book, and he's talking about this explosion of creativity and human wealth that started in Britain and the Netherlands about 300 years ago that has led us to where we are today, where you can put this little device in your ear and get music. Before the miracle created this explosion of wealth, if you wanted to hear music, you had two choices. You could either play it or go to somebody else who could play it for you. That was it. Those were your only two choices for music. And then Thomas Edison, a committed capitalist, figured out how to record music, and you could get scratchy little songs on this little cylinder that you had to crank by hand. Some other capitalist says, well, there's got to be a better way, a better mousetrap, and makes an album, a little record that sounds much better. It spins 78 times a minute, and it only holds a couple of minutes worth of music, and that's why songs tend to run, 3-4 minutes long, even to this day. Somebody else says, well, we could put a whole album of singles onto one big piece of vinyl about 12 inches around, and then the album was born. And then Sony, another evil capitalist company, said, you know what? If we take these new magnetic cassette tapes and have a little battery-operated device with headphones, people can take their music with them anywhere. They don't have to be tied down to a stereo in their house or the speakers in their car. They can just put their headphones on and jog or work out or whatever the heck it is they like to do. And then a few years after that, I don't know if you remember these. Children, do you know what an iPod used to be?
I'll give you $200 for that right now.
No,
on the spot.
Not parting with this for love or money. I still use this thing, although the dock cables are getting a little harder to find. The original selling point of this iPod was 1,000 songs in your pocket, and this is a later model of the original iPod, and I think I've got 15,000 songs on there. But then capitalism struck again, and now if you've got one of these smartphones, you can stream music from Apple Music, from Spotify, from wherever you like. 40 million songs in your pocket. You don't even need the wires anymore, because you get your phone out, you put the AirPods in, and boom, they sync and they start playing. And I've got one of these. I don't even need the phone anymore. This has got a cellular signal that makes my entire music library accessible anywhere in the world where there's a cell tower nearby that just automatically streams to these things. And even better, if you have one of these little smartphones, I'm not sure so much about Android, but if you've got one of these Apple iPhones, you can get free software called GarageBand, and you can start making music, creating music right there on your phone and become a capitalist yourself. And if you have some success, you can download iMovie for free and right there on your phone, make a music video. Capitalism has made us happier. It's put music in our ears anywhere in the world with endless variety, and it can turn anybody into an entrepreneur with tools you get for free with the cell phone you were going to buy anyway. That is capitalism, and people who hate that hate people, period.
Well, Bill Whittle, there's lithium in there and a variety of other kinds of chemicals that never really go away. In fact, could theoretically, start a fire when you throw them in the garbage because the battery life is, gone down to 45 minutes. But it strikes me, as Steve was talking about the beauties of capitalism versus the future fossils of capitalism concept that Caroline Haskins is pushing in Vice, that I'll bet you there is no preferred political party among AirPods wearers. Do you think a progressive, liberal, Democrat, socialist, anybody on the left side of thing would ever buy a pair of these? My guess is that's not the case. Why do you think that is?
I remember Jeremy Boring said once, he was talking about Obama speaking the language of the American people. He said, "Can you imagine if Mitch McConnell downloading a song from iTunes? It's inconceivable. It's just inconceivable." Yeah, so the people she's condemning obviously are left-wingers. There's so much fun things to say about this. First of all, if AirPods are going to be the fossils of capitalism, the fossils of socialism are going to be 200 million skulls with a hole in the back of the head where they've been executed. So I'll take the AirPods on that one. And it's kind of interesting too. She says they never ever what's the word? Biodegrade. Decompose, yeah. It takes a millennia. Well, a millennia. You're right. That's the same as saying never. Wow. I can just visualize the future. You know what I think when I think of the future, Scott? I think of these chrome hunter-killer robot androids crunching through piles of discarded AirPods as they hunt down the last of the underground humans, with their laser cannons. 1,000 years is not never. 1,000 years is considerably less time than never. Put all of this nonsense aside. It is a virtue signaling statement again, and I'd be willing to bet you a significant amount of money that this article condemning these horrible pieces of technology were written on a MacBook Pro at a Starbucks, transmitted over lines provided by Verizon or Time Warner, put on a hard drive made by Samsung in a box made, and on and on and on and on and on we go. We're entering an era. We've been entering it for a long time, but it's really starting to accelerate now, where the madness of progressivism is coming so thick and so fast that you realize that we're beginning to really watch we're like in end days progressivism, because the hypocrisy of it. And when I say hypocrisy, I don't mean little hypocrisy. I don't mean like, I like this, but I'm talking about the fundamental disconnect between what you say and what you do is becoming so apparent among progressives that it really is just like watching. You ever see where they light they'll take like 1 million firecrackers and light them, and then they start burning, and then all of a sudden just becomes this conflagration, it just, and then just slowly peters out. This is what I'm beginning to see in the world, where everything that they say is so absurd on its face that it's just another tiny little, it's not a brick in the wall, it's more like a little crunch of pebble under your feet, where it's like, are these people serious? And apparently they are. So are we really seriously listening to people like this? She works for an internet television company, and she's condemning technology that allows her entire paycheck to happen. And,
Bill, it's really going to blow your mind.
All I'm going to say seriously is this: if the fossils of our society are AirPods, we could do a lot worse than that. What does that tell you? If this is all that's left of American society in forever, or even 1,000 years from now, whichever may come first, let's say it's 100 million years from now, and all that's left of America is all they can find are AirPods. What does that tell you? It tells you that engineers were able to devise a device that was designed for the convenience of people, was put into the minimum package possible, was designed with as much grace and elegance as possible in order to provide a benefit that provides no material benefit whatsoever, simply the enjoyment of art and music through science. Yes, I agree. That may be the fossil of our age, a magnificent, miraculous, tiny, elegant device that allows us to enjoy music through the power of science. You win, Vice. You win again. How remarkably astute you are, you miserable, low-life commie bastards.
Stephen Green, you were going to say?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, just the cherry on top, Bill, and this is the point they never raise. The internet, of course, is the evil offspring of the military-industrial complex.
You know, there are many ways you can look at life, and certainly there is nothing that human beings do that does not have a consequence that may run contrary to the intention of the humans who did them. Almost everything we produce has a byproduct of some sort. Usually it's a byproduct you wouldn't want to snort or drink through a straw. There are always consequences for good actions that aren't always completely good. There's always a bag of trash after the birthday party. That's just how life is. And I think it says something about one's outlook toward life when you can't come to grips with that. When you feel like you need to pour your soul out into 8,000 words of a Vice article saying basically that this miraculous orchestra in my ear canal is somehow the great evil of our time.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the whole thing was just written for the clickbait headline of AirPods are a tragedy. I'll tell you this, I work at a store that sells them, and we have had notes in our daily newsletter that we get from management for the past 2 weeks that employees can't buy them right now. And the reason why employees can't buy them is because they are so stinking popular that we can't keep them in stock, and we want to reserve them for our customers. There is a fundamental mistrust of the people that comes with being part of the party that propounds to be of the people. It's the Democratic Party. It's the Socialist Party, the one that says we're trying to do something for the people, that constantly says the people are thinking wrong. The people are doing wrong. The people choose incorrectly. Well, the people have chosen this weird-looking, dorky little cigarette butt thing hanging out of their ear, which Apple intentionally made weird-looking and dorky so that it would be an icon that everybody would immediately recognize, and they'd know that's an Apple AirPod. They could have made them in any other way, but they're marketing geniuses. And for some reason, there are some people who just can't find a way to either be happy themselves or allow anyone else to be happy. But I prefer to look at the world as 2 ears completely full, not a glass half empty, but actually the joy overflowing. I can't tell you how many times I have enjoyed listening to books. I've listened to many, many more books than I've been able to read because I can use these little earbud kind of devices. I choose to look at the consequences of what we do, accepting that you got to eat the meat and throw away the bones. And there will always be a boneyard somewhere. But it's okay. It's a consequence of being a carbon-based life form. And that's okay. Maybe someday the people at Vice will come to grips with that. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for not only making this show, but also the detritus and the flotsam and jetsam that flows off the waste product that it generates. We like all of it. Thanks for watching.